There is always talk about the risk factors associated with being overweight. But what about the risk factors associated with being underweight? So in this video, I'm going to share that information in hopes of serving an often underserved population. So let's talk about that in this video. Now, when I'm discussing being underweight, what do I mean by that? I'm not referring to your BMI. I'm actually referring to your body fat percentage. And the reason I'm focusing on that is because your body fat percentage is a combination of your muscle mass and body fat. So too little of one of those or both of those can result in having this underweight risk factor. So that is what we're going to talk about in this video. Now, there is an essential amount of body fat we all need for insulation, for organ protection, for energy conservation, and more. And what those levels look like for men, bare minimum essential amount, about 2 to 5%. And then for women, we're talking more like 10 to 13%. And when I'm giving you these levels, that's like bodybuilding level. So anyone in a bodybuilding competition, that's usually the numbers they're trying to get to. And there's a reason that you can only stay at that amount for so long. You know, no bodybuilder stays at those low levels for the rest of their career, like the rest of their lives. It's just not sustainable. And if you've ever been around someone on one of those journeys, whether you know them personally or work with them or whatever, you know that once it gets close to showtime, they're almost unrecognizable. Like it's they're just so out of it. It's a lot, and there's a reason for that. So that's what we're going to discuss in this video. So again, those are the very low levels. Okay, but when we're talking about healthy levels for men, that actually bumps up to about 6 to 12%. And then for women, that bumps up to about 14 to 20%. And those levels are usually like your, endurance athletes, soccer players, runners, basketball players, maybe someone who just lifts weights, on a regular basis. Like that's kind of where they fall. But those are like healthy levels of body fat compared to a very small couple of weeks at that bodybuilding level. Okay, so our first risk is hormonal imbalance. So what that leads to can be acne, that can be mood swings, irritability, that can be low sex drive, low sperm count, infertility, appetite regulation, irregular periods. So all these things are affected by your hormones. Number two, a weakened immune system. So fat plays a really big role in our immune system. So when we don't have that much in our bodies, we're running the risk of not only getting sick frequently, but staying sick for a long period of time because our body is failing to fight off those infections. Number three, bone health. So again, without sufficient amount of fat levels, now our bones are at risk. So you're at risk for osteoporosis, which then leads to risk of fractures. God forbid you fall, bump your leg or hip on something. It could really potentially break. So we're increasing our risk of that. And then we talked about the one before of the immune system. So imagine having to go through surgery to repair a fracture. Your body's not going to recover as fast. So recovery is going to be poor, but also injuries are going to be poor. So we run a high risk of both of those together. Now, before we continue with the rest of the list, if you do like content like this, information like this, then be sure to subscribe to my newsletter and blog. I promise I'm not going to spam you. I write like on a bi-weekly basis. So at most, you'll receive 2 emails from me, but it'll be loaded with information like this to help you on your journey, whether that's fitness, nutrition, finance, etc. So check that out. Let's keep the list rolling. Number 4, I did mention that fat plays a huge role in insulating our body. So without that insulation, you run the risk of being cold all the time. So if you are currently an underweight person, but you live amongst people who have an average weight or above average weight, they're always warm, you're always cold. So they're complaining that you got it like burning in here, and you're always complaining that they have it freezing in there. So you see how that can actually affect our everyday life as well. A personal story, I have an uncle. He's, about 90 years old, but he's, very, very small guy. Like they, kind of put him on, protein shakes to try to get him to gain weight. But whenever I would visit him, his house would be on hell. I'm talking like 90 degrees in the summer. Like the inside, like the heat is on, but it's the summer out. Like he was just always cold. So these are like some of those examples that I'm talking about. Number 5, your heart rate begins to drop, which is, crazy, but it does. And so that puts you at risk of cardiac arrest, dizziness, just other things with the slowing of your heart. And the last one I'll mention is fatigue. As I mentioned earlier, our fat levels play a huge role in energy conservation, which means it just stores energy to be used when no energy is available. So if you don't have that, you run the risk of being tired all the time because your body has nowhere to pull energy from. And then if you're someone who is, severely underweight, but you like to work out or want to work out, that could cause your workouts to be a little strenuous as well and exhausting because you're going to the gym, you're doing your workout, maybe like 20 minutes in, you've already depleted all of your carbohydrate stores. So now when your body would normally tap into fat stores to help you keep going, there's no fat there. And so now you're having to complete your workout early, can't really finish it or can't do it to the extent that you want. And then you're having a hard time recovering from those workouts as well. So now our performance is being hindered as well. Those are just some, not all of the risk factors associated with being underweight. So if you are someone that falls into that category, man or woman, I'd first advise, just getting some additional support, whether that's getting a nutrition plan, workout plan, or both to help you gain some body fat healthily, because we don't want to just gain unhealthy weight. We want to gain healthy weight. So gain some healthy fat, but also gain some muscle, because odds are if you are falling in that category, you probably have a very low amount of muscle mass as well. And that is a whole different, and I'll make a separate video on that, but that's a risk in its own too, of just not having enough muscle mass. So that'll be my suggestion. If you want to check out that video that will be coming out in the future, subscribe now so you don't miss it out. That's all I got for this video. So if you did like it, you know what to do. Give me that thumbs up. I'd highly appreciate it. The knowledge we gain is powerful, but it's the knowledge we share that makes a difference. So please share this video with someone that you know that's near and dear to your heart that is very underweight. Maybe they need to hear this information and understand, how it's impacting them and how they can make a difference, because we have no problem, fat shaming and sending information to everyone that we love that's overweight and want them to bring their weight down. Well, the same thing can apply for those in your life that could be a little underweight. They might need a little extra support, motivation, and information to bring their weight up to a healthy amount as well. I'll catch you in my next video. As always, don't forget to crush it.